Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you're watching this live broadcast from. Hello and welcome. My name is Nishit Kotak. I'm here with the team from Hindu Academy. And every Saturday we meet at 2 o'clock UK time and we run a 1 hour session, which is mainly focused on answering your questions around Hinduism. So it's a Q&A style broadcast. And what we'd like to do is first of all, we run a focus video topic. Then we have a little discussion around that topic. For today, the topic of the day is the weakness of modern Hindus. And then after we've had a little bit of a discussion around the focus topic of the day, we'll take your questions, which you can leave to us on the comments area on YouTube, which is at youtube.com/Hindu Academy, or on Facebook on facebook.com/Hindu Academy. So without any further delay, let's get started with the focus topic of the day, which is as follows. And I will join you shortly after the video is finished. See you soon.
It's necessary for all Hindus to be aware that there are pointed issues that need to be addressed and not shy away from asking questions or exploring these issues or these ideas. You must explore it to its conclusion because your religion is robust enough to take on the challenges. It is robust. If it was something that was kind of shaky on the foundation, then if you ask robust question, it will collapse. Some people run away from this robust question because they know they are on shaky foundation. They say, don't ask, please leave us alone. I won't make any comment about any other religion because this is not a point scoring exercise. But the religion that you come from has always given you permission. This is not new. Hinduism has gone through so many different phases. Sometimes it was almost atheistic, in a certain period. It's prepared to go down that line even. So we have seen Richard Dawkins in the past, nothing new. So we've gone through a variety of different phases and we are ready for that. We embrace the idea of an evolving, living religion. So here is this, if you like, considered to be a living religion. And then you go to modern India and you say, oh dear, what are these guys doing here? They seem to have lost the plot completely. I've just been talking about divinifying humanity, seeing spirit in man and women, seeing and serving God in humanity. That is the esoteric idea of Atman and this idea of principle-oriented religion, esoteric Hinduism. And then you got all these gods and goddesses and you offer this to them and that to them and donate money to these kind of big institutions and all that. Surely we have lost sight of the plan, if you like this, the ethos of Hinduism. Surely we have lost. And this is why it's a question from the heart. It starts us up, especially if you go from the West and you see some of these atrocities committed or carried on in the name of religion, it will stir you up and say, this has gone wrong. It's stinking. We have lost the plot. You should address this issue. My answer is this. Majority of human beings, including the Hindus, look, never think that we are special and superior. We are not. We are as bad as any other human. People are sometimes worse in many cases. Be aware of that. Don't be frightened to understand it. You see, when every human struggles with the deeper ideas of religion, what does he do? He falls back on the superficial. So the deeper ideas of seeing and discovering the spirit as your essential nature and seeing spirit in others, seeing God in others. This is esoteric Hinduism, the deeper idea. It is difficult to absorb it, digest it and put it into practice in our lives. So what do? We fall back on the superficial. What is the superficial? Either we focus on the narrative, pure storytelling and just wallow in the stories, sentimentality. It's called purely wallowing in sentimentality, Swami Vivekananda's words. Hindus love that, don't you? That's why all the soap operas are so popular. You love these, round the merry-go-round and this villain doesn't die and you die and everything. It goes on and on forever. We love it. We are fixated on that. We love sentimentality and this wallowing in narrative, stories. This is one way. So when we can't understand the deeper idea, we hang on to the story part, the narrative, and make a big thing out of it. So we enhance or give greater credence to the narrative rather than the philosophy. One place where we fail. It shows that we can't relate to the deeper ideas. Let's hang on to the stories. And I told the modern Hindu youth, do you believe this actually happened or this exaggeration? No, it happened, Dilip. I said, it didn't happen. Think for yourself. Think for yourself. No, we can't. Don't call our religion mythology. If you call it mythology, so grow out of it. So either we fall back on the narrative, or the second thing we fall back on is the external is this idea of doing liturgy. We went to the mandir and we did this Kalash puja and we did this, arpan kairu, so you basically, because you don't relate to the deeper idea, you kind of grab the superficial. It is easy, suppose you are well-to-do, it's easy for you to say, I'm going to offer this much gold and this much money and this much milk to Shankar Bhagwan in the temple, and you get servants to carry it for you and go click your fingers and you go in, and it's easy to do that. But to say, look, stop seeing God in this image and start seeing God in the street outside your house. When you see that destitute girl walking up and down hungry, do something for her. That's your living God. That's an image of God. This is a living God in front of you. That's your religion teaches you. If you don't want to do that because this girl, then I have to look after all her life. How can I do? I don't have time for that. Easy to just throw some coconuts and flowers at these images and get away with it. So this is what happens. This is, if you like, look, it's a very cutting comment. And I may get a lot of stick for it.
No, it's true.
But I need to talk. When we struggle with the subtle, the difficult, you know what Swami Vivekananda said? Not Swami Vivekananda, Swami Ashokanand, one of the modern proponents of Hinduism, very lovely, enlightened personality. Some of the Swamis are enlightened, you can make out. Do you know how you make out? The material that comes out of the mouth is original. They never borrow from anybody else. They comes out naturally. There's a Swami Ashokanand in San Francisco, passed away in 1969, a recent one. And he used to say, make fun. He said, do you know what happens? The same question, in the same answer, but in a different way. He said, when you worship the God in the temple, he doesn't kick back. He just sits. And you pour water over him, pour milk over him, he just sits. When you try and worship the living God, he kicks. When you try and interact with the living kingdom, say God in seeing and serving God in humanity, to see Shiva in Jiva, that's the idea, you see, transcending theistic Hinduism to non-theistic Hinduism. When you do that, that is tough, and you don't want to do that, so you hang on to the superficial. So rather than doing something which is philanthropic for the greater society, for the greater humanity, it's easier to just offer, kalash chadavan and pani diyo and bili patra. It's easier. So this is the plight of the modern Hindus, because they can't relate to deeper. They hang on to the superficial with all their life. You see, this shows weakness. Weakness. It's best to acknowledge it. By acknowledging it, you see, another thing I'm very keen that happens is this. A lot of good things that we are exploring in the United Kingdom should be re-exported back to India. I'm hoping these kind of questions, this is a question that this question has to be fired at the Hindus in India. Not at me, but he has fired it at me in UK here, but it's fair enough. But these things should be exported back to India. This idea, what are you doing? What are you doing? Grow up. Revigorate your religion. See and serve God in humanity. That's a more difficult job, but that is demanded of you in modern times. For how many, these are Vivekananda's words, for how many lifetimes you've been bowing down to these images? For one life, now worship the living God, not the imagery, the living God. The man on the street struggling, do something for them. One lifetime devote to this living God, says Vivekananda. See what happens to India. But we are not able to do it. We are weak. So we hang on to the externals and grab them with all of, well, this is our God, don't criticize us. Well, we have to.
Free e-learning course in Hinduism. To register, please visit www.hindu-academy.com.
Talks on Hinduism, sponsored by People Care, encouraging caring for the elderly in their own homes. For more information, please visit peoplecare.com.
So there you have it, folks. A very interesting topic to discuss today. And to help me do that, I have got my panel of experts. We've got Vijay Bhai, Sita Ben, and we've got Manish Bhai. So Manish Bhai, I'm going to hand over the panel to you so you can get started with some Q&A around today's focus topic.
Thank you, Vijay Bhai. Very, very cutting video from Jai Bhai, very critical of current Hindu practices. So it's very going to be interesting to discuss this topic. So we start off with this idea of divinity of humanity. And many Hindus not able to relate to this. And they would say, where is this written in our scriptures? Where is this? We don't see this. Where are you getting all this material from? So where do we get this material from? Where is, what is Jay Bhai talking about here, Vijay Bhai?
Actually, it's actually there. In the Upanishads are literally talking about that, nothing else. I think the thing is that for some reason, for whatever reason, India has forgotten the idea that looking inwards and seeing the divine in humanity, actually in all the reference of all life, that is such a special thing. And you'd be surprised, Manish, but this is very unique to Indic faith. In every other faith you see around the world, the idea that we serve the external God, we are like servants, right? And India comes with this unique idea that actually you are so special and so is everybody else. We are such a special divine being that the God is literally in humanity. And if you fail to see that, I think there's a major, major loss. And I think that's what Jay was really emphasizing in the video. That's a tremendous weakness. And I suspect, I know people have a go at me, I think we have picked up some really bad ideas for 1,000 years of conquest by, and I can tell you the British rule. Somehow we've always been attacked by religions who actually been the external God. And somehow we think we have to compete on that level. We don't. And I think it's a major, major loss for us. And I think we need to find a way back and realize the supreme deity, the supreme Lord, is actually in us. The Atman itself, don't forget, Atman is not created by any external God in Hinduism or in Indic faith. It's eternal. It's always there. If it's eternal, then it's something really special. And if you can't realize that, then I think there's something major missing. And as Jay Bhai mentioned, it's very easy. I'm not saying don't do it. Go in the temples, put Vili Patra. It's good because you get community feeling, temple activity. That's all nice. But the key principal thing, not to forget the idea that there's divinity in humanity. That is so crucial to remember. Every time we do externals, look, anybody with money can do externals. I can do that. But how are they developing inwards? How is the inward journey? Are they making inward spiritual journey that, oh, look, I am something special, or somebody out there is special? Are they doing that? Are we doing that? That's a very, very cutting question, which Jay Bhai mentioned. And that's something I think Hindus need to discover again, that there's something far, far grander in us. Not just external, forget external, there's something much more bigger in us. And that's something that somehow even more India have missed. And as Jay Bhai mentioned, it's really sad to see people walking about. Yeah, and people don't even blink. I've done that. I've been to temples in India. The people outside begging or wanting some basic food. They won't even glance even once, but they'll go in there, temple, and they're happy to put all this money and coconuts, right? Something we are missing in Hinduism. The high teachings of Upanishads have been forgotten, in my view. Yeah. Sita Ben.
Yeah, I think you've covered it amazingly. I think one of the sort of, hard sort of realities we have to face is that these subtle teachings are very difficult to put into practice. It's very easy to say, oh yeah, see God in humanity, but actually doing it is a whole other story. And it's not easy. As Dad was saying in the video, the living God kicks back, and you can do, you can bend over backwards, you can sort of serve the community, you can work with the best possible intentions, but there will always be people out there ready to criticize and to sort of say, no, you should do it this way, not this way. How dare you do it like this, and whatever. And that makes it much more difficult for us. So it's much easier to sort of use a little escape route and say, I'll just worship the quiet God in the temple. It's just so much easier. And I still feel like I'm being a good Hindu by going to the temple and worshipping, which there is obviously some benefit to that as well. We talk about it in our Hinduism classes, but the real benefit surely is sort of enriching your life by seeing yourself in others, in those around you. And it's not a straightforward path, it's the more difficult path, but it's the more satisfying overall. When you look back at your life, you reflect on what you have done, and you've been able to help so many people, then you feel like you've lived a spiritually valuable life rather than just sitting quietly. You've actually done something for the greater humanity. So we all have to sort of try and follow the more difficult path, and it's much easier to follow the easier path.
Wonderful answer, Sita Ben, Vijay Bhai. Staying with this topic, we see where there are many bodies who are building large temples, and some of these our temples, they're getting so much donations, but we don't see much happening for poor people. Why are we so focused on these externals? And is it wrong to go to temple and worship all these images, or what's happening? Should we be focusing more on humanity? Sitaben.
I think yes, definitely. I mean, it reminds me of what the Sikh tradition do. They part of their worship is actually serving food to the community. You can see there's a real tangible benefit to the local community, and hopefully something that Hindus will try and adopt is something similar like that. Or in a different way, you can sort of donate food to the local community. You can have troops of people going out and volunteering for different charities. The more that we can do, the better. And we just have to try and serve the living God as much as possible. Although there's nothing wrong at all with worshipping God in the temple. And there are benefits to that, of course, because you build a personal relationship with a form of God that you are drawn towards. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And that's how you're making spiritual progress. But the more difficult pathway, but hopefully the more beneficial pathway, is serving God in humanity. So it's Dvait versus Advait kind of thing. And you have to choose the path that suits you. But the harder path is the Advait in that sense, putting it into practice. It's very easy to talk about, but much more difficult to put it into practice. Vijay bhai? Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry, thank you. I think the idea you mentioned about temples, yes, I think we are building very, very, very grand temples. But it's questionable that is it benefiting the masses in terms of spirituality? I cannot answer that. But temples are important. That's one thing to remember, that we do need temples because they bring the community together, they do activities, which is all well and good. And sometimes, of course, when you go the communal worship, you get spiritually charged. But one thing we should always try and keep focus on is the divinity within us. And that's a very crucial thing. I think sometimes we forget that. And I think we need to reorient our kind of our view and vision towards divinity in man, and that the fact that we are very special, and try and solve that first and foremost. Otherwise, I think we have lost the plot. That's the main thing. Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, that's all to add on that, Manish bhai. Yeah.
Wonderful answer, Vijay bhai, Sitaben. So should we be changing the way we use our temples? Should our temples open up and be more focused on serving humanity, serve food and have even medical facilities, so that it becomes more beneficial to society? Should our temples be remodeled? Sitaben?
Yes, because actually we are sort of in a way wasting our resources, because people are coming to the temple anyway, for worshipping God, but why not utilize that for a greater good? So I know that, there are many temples that sort of have classes within the temple sort of setting. So dance and religion and language classes for children. But I think there is so much more that we can do, and especially temples in sort of poorer communities in India, for example, especially during the pandemic, they can be used as sort of hubs where people can go and get their vaccines. They can go and get information about coronavirus or whatever sort of difficulties are facing the local community. They can see it as a place to get their sort of, their health needs as met, as well as their spiritual needs, their physical as well as their spiritual needs. So there's a lot of potential there which we should tap into, I think. Vijay bhai?
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. I mean, I think it's changing a little bit, which is a good sign. I think I've seen in India that a lot of temples now offer food. They, as Sita mentioned, run classes. I mean, in my own village, I actually raised a question in the local temple that in the morning, after the morning prayers are finished at about 8, 9, people go in temple very early, and you got about 3-4 hours. Why not run a nursery school? I've asked that actually, to run a nursery school and use the facility. They've got really beautiful facilities, air-conditioned facilities. It didn't go far, but hopefully at some point it'll happen. So there are many, many uses we can put the temple into. I think the other problem we have, especially in India, is that the temples are actually controlled by the government. And the original idea was that, I think at the time of Nehru, was that because they're seen as national treasures, the government can look after them well. But as we know, thousands of temples in India, literally tens of thousands, are now derelict. This government has been looting funds and not been running them. And as Sita mentioned, I hope they revive as a hub, which is then they can be used for good facilities. So in that sense, if they're all revived, I think there's some lot of interesting gurus in India. I think Sadhguru is also trying to revive the temple tradition, which is all well and good. So we know we need those temples for community and activities. But I think we should always keep focus on what Jay Bhai said, that ultimately we should try, and temple's goal should be to serve humanity and serve the man, God in man, far more than just saying, okay, that can wait, let's go deity. We should do in such a way that actually the humanity, the God in man is the ultimate beneficiary. That's very important point to keep in mind. Yeah.
Wonderful answer, Sita Ben, Vijay Bhai. We got an interesting comment from Eric Newman. He's saying the Upanishads and the Gita especially solely focus on divinity being within all humanity. As a Catholic from the US, I find ancient Hindu texts like Gita as the best spiritual books. Thank you for that comment, Eric. Now we got a question from Free Fire. He's saying, why do some religions prohibit idolatry, worshipping of images? Is there any explanation from spirituality, Hinduism? Sitaben?
Yes, so that's a misconception about Hinduism. People think that Hinduism is idolatrous, but actually we are not sitting there worshipping marble and stone and wood. We are using those images to reach out to the infinite, these finite forms to reach out to the infinite, because trying to sort of grasp in our mind the concept of God is just, it's so vast, it's so beyond what we are, what we know. So we use these forms of God to sort of link ourselves with the ultimate, and we are not sitting there praying to marble or stone, or we're not praying to pieces of paper that are on pictures. We are using those to reach out to the infinite, so finite tools to reach out to the infinite. And Dad has made many videos on this subject. So yes, we are not idolatrous, but we use these forms to reach out, and it's something that's used to sort of put down Hinduism, but once you understand it, it makes so much more sense as to why we are doing these things. Vijay Bhai?
I think, Sita, you have pretty much covered it. But just to add on to that, I think in the ancient traditions, especially shamanic traditions, people had these objects, like feathers or some sort of, special color stones, or even now we see a lot of people wearing, like special color stones, whatever. They were seen as having power in themselves. And therein lies the problem, because that is what idolatry actually means. That the object in itself has power, special magical properties. And Sitaben explained that is actually not true, because you'll be surprised in India quite very often, some images get destroyed or get damaged, and they just do a Visarjan ceremony, means basically to take it out and put it, put it in the water or somewhere, and they put a new one in. If it was the fact that worshipped idols, we would really, our faith would be broken. But we have no problem in putting it. I mean, even in Kutch, when I was there, I think where I come from, about 20 years ago, there's a big earthquake, and a lot of temples have been destroyed. And all we have to do is just dispose them in a nice manner and install new ones. No problem, Hey, because as we said, the images are not what we don't worship stone or marble. We actually use them as a tool to reach the infinite. And I think that's the main thing to keep in mind. So if somebody says you worship idols, I think you should try and correct them and say that's actually not true. Manish Bhai?
Wonderful answer, Vijay Bhai, Sitaben. So another thing that Jai Bhai mentioned in his video is about narratives and colorful stories. And, as Hindus, I think even all human beings, we love stories. We like wonderful stories, and we have so many wonderful stories. And they make Hinduism such colorful, nice, religion. And we do relate to it well. So what's wrong with it? Why is Jai Bhai criticizing that? Vijay Bhai?
Actually, all I can say that it's good at one level, but it can be actually very, very limiting and also damaging at another level. We have to be very careful. I have actually seen people in the temple argue about the Ramayana. Oh, no, Hanuman he said this. He goes, no, I know better. He said this. If you're going to fight at that level and you're going to argue who said what, because you want to show that you're a much more better Hindu, I think you have lost the plot there, literally. Because the idea is, as he said, to work with the divinity inside us. So stories are well and good for moral stories. For children are absolutely brilliant. But if you're going to at an adult level, if you're going to argue your whole life based on, oh, you know, in the Mahabharata, so and so happened, or this will happen, that happened, we should do this. It doesn't work like that. I think we lose the plot really, literally. We have to focus. Sita was the idea of the Advaita tradition, where you look inwards and see your true divine nature. And sometimes we forget that. And I think that actually puts off children as well. A lot of adult children, or young, you know, adults are put off by that kind of stuff. That's why they don't go to any kathakars anymore. If you go to kathas, you know, all these sermons done by a lot of great, you know, orators, right? It's only old ladies and old men in the 70s, 80s. The middle group from 20 to 40 are missing. But they just can't be bothered with such, you know, games. They want something far, far grander. So I think in that sense, I think Dilip Bhai's comment is very, very apt in this day and age. And we need to take that into board seriously, Sita Ben.
Yeah, I mean, as Vijay Bhai was saying, these stories, they do serve a purpose, especially, you know, when you're young, you're getting introduced to ideas of religion and spirituality. Sort of falling back on these colourful stories helps us feel connected with our religion and our tradition, because as a child, you're not going to be able to understand the deep philosophy. But the whole purpose is that from those stories, you then grow spiritually, and rather than just focusing on those stories, which are ultimately man-made stories, they're not sort of, you know, discoveries of, you know, revelations, they are man-made stories essentially. So it's important to then grow out of those and say, I've learnt what I can from them. What else is there in Hinduism that's deeper? What can I use in my day-to-day life in a practical sense? And this is where you can sort of come across teachings of the Upanishads and learn about Advaita philosophy as well as Dvaita philosophy, and just make use of it in your everyday life and serve humanity. Essentially, if Advaita is your path, that's what you have to do. And it gives you so much greater depth of understanding of the world, your perspective on everything. And it's a shame that so many people just sort of get stuck in a rut with the storytelling, which is nice, but you need to grow out of it and sort of develop spiritually from there.
Okay, wonderful. So we've come to that point in the time where we're almost halfway through the broadcast for today. There are plenty of things that, you know, we can share with you all. And I'm going to come with some updates. But today, I just want to have a quick couple of words, because we have the occasion of Guru Purnima coming up. You know, Jay Bhai, I consider him as one of my gurus as well. So on the occasion of Guru Purnima, I just want to thank Jay Bhai for always being a teacher who has guided me and supported me in many, many ways. And I think there's a quote from Gautam Buddha, which is very, very apt for him, which is, a man should always direct himself in the way he should go. Only then should he instruct others. And I know Jay Bhai for the past, I don't know, at least 25 years or so that he's been doing the work of, you know, helping people understand modern Hinduism. And so he's certainly somebody who's been a guru to me. And I'm sure for many others, I've seen some comments as well on the social media channels. They're passing their words of gratitude to him as well. So just before I carry on with the rest of the broadcast, I'd like to do a quick announcement on a couple of things. For those of you who are new to the channel, let me show you some resources. So if you can go to our website, it's hindu-academy.com like this. You'll find our ebook, which is available for free. You just click here and opt in, and you'll get the ebook delivered to you, or you can read it online on the page as well. If you have a question and you want to ask us by video, you can scan this code and send it to us. And if you come down here, if you have any trouble logging into our e-course on Hinduism, you can find my details here, and you can join us on our free e-course. Just to give you a little bit of progress on our e-commerce, our e-course, we are now at 7,000 plus students. My goal is to get to 10,000 within a couple of months. So I ask you all to help me spread the word about this fabulous little course, which gives you the basics of Hinduism. And this is one of the ways somebody's been asking me, you know, they're talking about how certain parts of India, you know, Hinduism is on a decline, etc., etc. Well, the reason is this. Jay Bhai always used to say, arm yourself with the knowledge. knowledge about Hinduism so that you can stand up and defend it. And that's what I would say. Start with this basics of Hinduism. We got the O-level course also with about 640 plus students on it. The training, the live training will start very shortly. And this is to prepare for the exams that will come up in around October or December for Cambridge Board. That's all across the world. And if you're interested in the basics of Sanskrit, there's another course here as well. So that is a short commercial break from me, and we're back to Manish Bhai.
Wonderful break there, Nisit Bhai. So remembering Jai Bhai, would you like to say something about Jai Bhai, Vijay Bhai?
All I can say, I really miss him because I think he was a very, very good teacher and kind of mentor as well. But I think the best way to kind of remember him and his memory is actually to do his work and go take it even further. And I'm pretty sure that he wants us to do even far, far better than what he could achieve and get his work forward. I think the thing is basically, I think the main thing is what he's done, which is really important. I think people forget is that thousands of students have actually gone through the Hinduism classes and they've actually been armed. And the thing is that some of the greatest gems of Hinduism, which in many ways have been suppressed for nearly 1,000 years, they're all coming out again. Yes, and it's a tremendous amount of work to make them available to all of us again. And that's something I think. I mean, you'd be surprised in the Hindu community. Sorry to say this, the very few people who actually want to do this kind of work, they're too busy in doing their own stuff, making their own money, and to get Jai Bhai one person to come out and say, look, enough is enough. We go do something to revive this. And he's a tremendous, and I'm pretty sure, and I'm fairly confident that his work will only grow. That's all I can say. I wish he was here, but what can I do now? Sita Ben.
It's going to be hard for me to talk without crying. Yeah, I love my dad. I miss him a lot. And as Vijay Bhai was saying, we have to sort of carry on his work in the best possible way that we can. And I love him and miss him a lot too.
Thank you, Sita Ben. Yes, it's when we do talk about Jai Bhai, we do get emotional. And to me, Jai Bhai was what he preached, he practiced. I could see it in his life. Whenever I visited him, there was a smile on his face, and he was so full of joy. And I learned my Hinduism from him. And when I say that, and he basically in United Kingdom refocused Hinduism. He put the Hinduism in educational scenes. He started GCSE Hinduism and A-level Hinduism course. He set course materials for them. So as we see, he started this great work, and we have to continue with that. And he's shown us the way how we can teach Hinduism, not preach Hinduism, and that way progress on our own path. So that's a wonderful day to remember him, and he's certainly one of my guru who inspires me. And thank you, Kusagra Singh, for mentioning this. He said on this occasion of Guru Purnima, we should give our love and respect to Sri Sarlakhani, who has done such a big work. Om Shanti. Excellent. We take the next question. Ian Perdue saying, serving God in humanity is the Bhakti Yoga, and what is the difference between Bhakti Yoga and spiritual humanism? Vijay Bhai?
Okay, so
what is the difference between Bhakti Yoga and spiritual humanism? If we say serving God in humanity, is also a bhakti of human God?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I'll explain how. Because whenever it's always great tradition. How when we serve God and do bhakti to God, if you forget doing helping the God's devotees, then I think you've lost the plot as well. And I'm sorry to say, I've seen so many Hindus do that. They'll go in the temple and big position, everything. They'll show the really big devotees and do everything chanting. But the minute they go out the door, don't help anybody else. They're totally stingy in any different way. And you see all these strange people. But look, if you're a true devotee of a bhakta of any deity, Shiv Bhakta or Ram Bhakta, then the thing you will do more than anything else is also serve humanity. So ultimately, they're all children of God. And I think doesn't matter what marg you take, bhakti marg or karma. Remember one thing, that the true bhakti is serving all of God's. If you believe in the idea of God's creation, all of God's creation are also special, and use that to serve them as well. Don't forget that God lives in everybody, yes, as well. So it may look at some point at a high level, oh, there's bhakti to a devotee, and you go this spiritual humanism. Actually, they're not. Also they're quite closely tied together as well. Yeah, Ashita, man.
Yeah, this is the thing. From sort of when you look at it from an external perspective, Dvait or Bhakti Yoga and Advait philosophy seem very, very different, but ultimately they do both lead to the same reality. And just one image which really captures this sort of merging of Dvait and Advait is this image of Hanuman, who is opening up his chest, and inside his chest there is an image of Ram. So essentially, the whole purpose is that they do ultimately conclude in the same way. So as you progress on your path of Bhakti Yoga, you'll probably start getting that urge to want to do something for the greater humanity, because you're starting to feel connected, not just with that particular form of God, but with everyone around you, the spirit that's around you. And you'll want to serve that. It will just come naturally to you. So although they appear to be two contradictory different pathways, they will ultimately lead to the same destination.
Wonderful answer, Sitaben. We take a next question from Simran Foods. He's saying, or she's saying, Hinduism is an ever-evolving religion. My question is, who decides which direction this goes, and is it based on majority Hindu consensus, or is it based on minority intelligence of Hinduism, e.g. gurus? Who decides, Sitaben?
We all decide. Yeah, we all decide. It's just a spiritual democracy. And just as you get in politics, you've got the mainstream parties, and you've also got all these wacky other parties, monster, loony, raving party, whatever. You get all these crazy other parties as well, but they're allowed to be there. There's nobody saying, no, you can't do that because that's not mainstream. You do what you want to do. Perhaps you sort of follow the mainstream pathways like Bhakti Yoga, perhaps you like Advait, perhaps you sort of discover your own way, and that's totally fine. And that's how Hinduism and spirituality continues to evolve, because the way we think of religion and spirituality is very different to what it was, say, 100 or 200 years ago. And that's just the beauty of Hinduism, is that all of these different pathways are reconciled. Once you choose your path and you make spiritual progress on that path, you will feel greater affinity with those on different pathways. And that's the beauty of it, is that we are all on the same team. We are all going to the same destination. And that's really the beauty of Hinduism. Vijay Bhai?
Yeah, I think the question is quite interesting, because in effect, Hinduism is basically your own path. But it is true that there's some profound ideas every so often in Hinduism which are put out there. And the thing is, it's not imposed on us, obviously, but yeah, I like that idea. Like, when Adi Shankara came on the scene, the idea of the Advait tradition, and it was appealing to so many people, and say, I like his ideas, let me pick them up and make them my own. And that's the key thing, to make them own. You're not going to serve somebody else. It helps you for your own spiritual progress. And by and large, we have Ramanuja, we had great, India has got a huge myriad of great, spiritual beings, and they all have some really profound ideas. And the ideas that appeal to you individually is ideas you will pick up and move forward with that. So it is true that by and large, you can see sometimes from the ancient, Brahmanic traditions, even further, there was 86 traditions. And by and large, as you get profound ideas, actually, even you can have your own ideas of spirituality. And then it's, I like the idea of serving, in man, fine. If you like the idea of nature, you make them your own and you progress spiritually. So there is no kind of a collective rule that everybody must follow. By and large, it's your own choice. And as like in any other knowledge, field of knowledge, like science, math, we learn, and some ideas we like and we use them and make their own. Same with spirituality. The ideas you pick up, your own ideas, and you use those to move forward. So that's what I can add on to that. Yeah.
Wonderful answer there, Vijay Bhai, Sitaben. We take the next question. Adityan says, how can miracles be done And there was another follow-up question that by him as also. Just trying to find it. Does the miracle, and he's asking how can miracles be done? And then the second question he asked, does the miracles actually happen? Vijay bhai?
This question has been asked. Look, the greatest miracle is that we are here. Forget any other miracle. Yes. I mean, depends. See what you see as miracle. You know, miracles are every day. They're there in front of your eyes. I mean, because of this lockdown we have at the moment with this COVID-19 situation, I have learned the names of so many trees in the park, like how the acorn grows. And, you know, when you look at something really carefully, like a seed producing a tree, can you imagine a seed making a whole tree? That is a far, far greater miracle than any other miracle, like winning 100 pounds somewhere. That's not a miracle, right? So it depends what you critically as a miracle. But if you're hoping for something like beyond science, I think we should think a bit. You look, sometimes you get carried away with all these miracles. Sorry to say, but the idea of drinking miracle was such a farce and created so much, you know, so many, you know, I would say blind following. It's really sad. Look, I think when it comes to miracles, those are not kind of miracles. The true miracles are such that you self-realize or you understand your true speech. These are the true miracles you should really aim for. Forget all these maintained, you know, material miracles. They just maintain. Actually, they don't happen really. But sometimes some of people feel that if it's a miracle, then I can believe in something. Look, I would suggest that stay with the rationale of science. Okay, it's true, not everything is discovered yet. We don't know all the rules of science. So maybe some unusual phenomena which looks like a miracle, but analyze them in that particular fashion. Don't try and make something, you know, oh, this miracle happened now. That means something amazing spirit is happening. Don't do like that. Yeah. So I would say that miracles are by and large are not a good thing to use to kind of believe in something, right? Believe in yourself. That's what I would say. Sitaben.
Yeah, that's wonderful message. That's exactly Swami Vivekananda's message. So yeah, as you said, you know, the greatest miracle is that we're here, and probably the greatest miracle is when we sort of discover who we truly are and we become enlightened beings. That's the best sort of miracle that you can get, because people look to miracles as a way of proving that there is God. But that's the greatest miracle, is when you sort of taste that, you know, spiritual nectar and you actually become God yourself. That's the greatest miracle on earth, essentially. Really, you have to make sure that we don't sort of try and bring God down to saying, oh, perform some magic tricks for me so I can prove that you are here. God doesn't operate like that. So we should sort of move away from that kind of mindset that, you know, God does little magic tricks for us and we're like, hee, that's great. Really, the greatest miracle is that we are here, as Vijay was saying, and even more so when we become enlightened beings, hopefully, eventually. That's the greatest miracle on earth.
Wonderful answers there, Sitaben, Vijay. So it's great to talk about miracles. But if you are interested, for viewers, please do watch. Jai Bhai has done a series of videos on miracles. He explains quite well that there is no such thing as miracle. Actually, there has to be some explanation behind as to what happened. So do check those out on our YouTube channel. If you search Hindu Academy and miracles, those three terms, you should be able to find Jai Bhai's video on that. Next question we take from Sajila K. She's asking, can a married man have children? And for him, is it possible to attain salvation for such a man? Second question someone asked was again about marriage. Mac is saying, is it okay for a Hindu to marry people of other religion? Does one attain moksha if they marry in other religion? Sitaben?
Yes, I mean, yes and yes. Hinduism is so broad-minded, essentially. So there is absolutely sort of nothing wrong with, you know, having a family and having children, but then also sort of making sure that you maintain your spiritual focus. And the wonderful thing about Hinduism is that we've got the ashram system. So So it lays out a sort of plan for our lives so that we can fulfill the sort of aims of life, which includes some materialistic aims as well, like earning wealth and fulfilling legitimate desires. That's all allowed, because the problem is if you try and bottle it up for humanity, humanity is just going to go crazy. You need to sort of have that outlet, live through the process, and then when you sort of have that inner realization within yourself that, hang on, I'm not getting the same level of happiness that I thought I would by sort of achieving all these materialistic goals, then that's when you can really start your spiritual journey. So Hinduism allows for that process, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And Sri Ramakrishna actually was married. He was immersed in spirituality, but he was married in a way to show us that even as a householder, you can make spiritual progress, and you treat your companion as a spiritual partner, which is the wonderful beauty of it. You evolve your relationship and make it spiritual, essentially. And the other point about the sort of marrying people of not your faith, well, Hinduism is just naturally pluralistic by nature, so we've got absolutely no problem with that, as long as one partner doesn't try and impose their faith on the other partner, because that's the nature of it. You have to sort of start from your own spiritual standpoint, and you should not impose it on your partner. And likewise, let your children be exposed to both the traditions and let them choose when they grow up what tradition is best for them, essentially. Vijay bhai?
I think that Sita, you pretty much covered it quite comprehensively. I think the thing is, remember that Hinduism, the word is Sanatana Dharma, and Sanatana Dharma is universal. So if you start saying that I'm marrying somebody else who's not a Hindu, I mean, even Hindu itself is a tag to identify us with this particular subcontinent. Really, Hinduism, the word Sanatana Dharma is far, far broader. So when we say that we're marrying somebody else, it's a question, or a religion. What does it really mean? That's something I'll leave you to ponder about. Yeah. Okay, that's all I can say, Manish. Bye.
Wonderful answer, Vijay bhai. Yellow Flower is asking a question which I believe is getting from a mistranslation of Bhagavad Gita. He's saying, why does Gita calls women sinners in 932? Now, if I read a translation of 932, it says, O part, whoever takes refuge in me, be they people of evil birds, women, merchant, or workers, they shall attain the ultimate goal. So there is no that linking the women with evil birds and this Papillona, which is, they're not related. He's saying anyone who take refuge in me shall attain the ultimate goal. There is no linking the two. So please don't mistranslate or misinterpret this, please. Do you agree with that, Vijay bhai?
Yeah, absolutely. People interpret things most different kind of ways, yeah. But it's very generic, I think, that one. I think you explained it okay, Manish.
Okay, thank you. We take the next question. Indo-Brit is asking, is God real? If God is real, why he created all these life forms when he knows they will cross each other and then eventually destroy the entire planet? Why God created such creations and animal beings and life, Sitaben?
Yeah, I mean, we just have to be open and honest. We don't know. We don't know why we are on this journey. We don't know why there's so much suffering. We don't know why animals live off each other. We don't know anything, essentially, why all these things happen. But we are stuck here. We are sort of like plonked onto this earth, living our lives. And we just have to try and make sense of it in the best way that we can by sort of trying to focus our lives on spirituality, spiritual living, and sort of feeling connected with those around us. That's all that we can do, and trying to serve those around us. And I think I feel quite hopeful that, it looks like the world is turning away from religion, but I think the world is going towards a more spiritual way of living without even realizing it. So the beauty of art and music and all of these wonderful things, love for the environment, which is really coming out, love for animals through this idea of veganism, they're all sort of coming to the fore now. And this is essentially a way that we can sort of learn to not destroy our planet, destroy the animals living around us, make sure that we sort of sustain everybody, make sure everyone is treated as spirit, even the animal kingdom. They are essentially a manifestation of spirit too. So that's all that we can do. And we have no idea why we are on this journey at all, really. Vijay bhai?
Yeah, I think you covered it pretty well. But one thing to mention, I think this is where the Advait tradition becomes quite strong, because in the Advait tradition, there is no such thing as a creator God as such. They're all part and parcel of this journey. Every living thing in this world is part and parcel. And this is, as Jay Bhai actually mentions all the time, this is how the cookie crumbles, right? And that's where we are. And how the question is, how do we make the best out of it? How do we all progress spiritually and look after everybody else, including the environment? I think one thing where the Hinduism comes out strong is the fact that we believe all life has divine souls, not just the human life, unlike in the Abrahamic faith. So there's actually even more so incentive on us to save the planet and all life, because they are also divine beings and divine Atman. I mean, even there's a lot of, I guess, a lot of Atma living in me as well, because so many bugs. But this is the beauty that everything is seen as divine. And that's why I think is an even bigger responsibility on us as Hindus to work towards having a better life and a better kind of world, yes. But otherwise, we can't answer the question of why all this Maya suffering, why is, as somebody says, I think the science, evolutionary biology said that we live in the world of tooth and claw. That is something difficult to answer. All we can say, we are in the situation, and how do we make it better and progress forward? Yeah. Yeah.
Wonderful answer, Vijay bhai, Sitaben. Right. Okay, wonderful answer there, Sitaben, Vijay bhai. We got a wonderful feedback from Dhanalakshmi Gangadharan. She said, "Oh, I'm so emotional seeing you, Sita. He surely has left an abundance of treasures for all of us to globally in an international language that anyone from any part of the world can follow. I surely value this service, and it is also given for free every weekend by your entire team. In addition to the additional customer service, it reflects your sincere intention to spread Hinduism and to reach out to every heart that wishes to learn. Your dad is a wonderful guru for giving and sharing to the greater community at large. I will surely share with others about these studies and guide others. I'm learning every day." Thank you for a wonderful comment there, Dhanalakshmi Gangadharan. And we've had some others similar wonderful comments from others. Now we got an interesting question from Sora B. It's saying, "Can you please explain spiritual experience or message of Sri Jai Lakhani ji that he has shared with his close associates?" The question is particularly to Vijay bhai and me. Vijay bhai, do you want to have a go first? Go, please.
Well, I've been very close to him for so many years now, and he's mentioned to me as well that, I mean, that's, by the way, just to let you know, that is the reason why he started Hinduism. I don't know if I shared it, but I don't know if you know, but he was an immensely wealthy person, and he just flicked it away because he wanted to go for higher goals. I mean, what more can I tell you? I mean, this is why he left everything. And by wealthy, I mean immensely wealthy. I don't know mention any figures here, but all I can say is that he basically flicked his house in Kensington, his limousines, and went to a 2-bedroom flat to live. Why? Why would he do that? Because he knows he has the glimpse of the divine and said, look, this is what I want to go and work on and not anything else. But yeah, intensely spiritual person, Jai Bhai, yes. And you can just see from his lifestyle, a very simple lifestyle. And if you'd be surprised when you see him, because you see him in a suit and you see him in all this tie when he comes. But actually, if you look at his life, it's so simple. And you say, it's difficult to join this server. Then you realize actually how truly spiritual he is. And that is because we've been very close to him. We can see his life, how simple it is, simplicity, because he knows his primary goal is what the biggest goal he knows. Everything else is kind of by the wayside, yes? And that's something that I'm trying to learn from him, but it's not that easy to do. But there you go. Manish bhai, I leave it to you. I think you're frozen, Manish, right? So
Wonderful answer, Vijay Bhai. So just to mention, Saurabh, he didn't talk much about his spiritual experience. So he wouldn't, I mean, unless we asked him that question. But he has shared his spiritual journey in a question and answer format in one or few of his videos. And if you search for My Spiritual Journey, Jay Lakhani, then you will find it on YouTube where he's talking about his spiritual journey. So please do go ahead. But what we could see from his life, the way he was leading and the simplicity and always happy face, and we could see that he was putting into practice whatever he was talking about. So that we can see the clear indication there. And I think that's all I can say about that. Sitaben, do you want to add something on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult to talk about Dad without crying. Yeah, he did have spiritual experiences which he kept extremely private, and I know that, you know, he did touch base with it because what he has set up is something really special, and we just have to sort of carry it on. It's our duty to carry it on, really.
Wonderful. Nisit Bhai, do you want to come on, please?
I think, Manish Bhai, we take on one more question, the last one. Choose one of the best ones from the list, and then we'll wrap it up for today.
Okay, we'll take this question from Samarth Mishra. He's saying, what will happen if our Earth somehow gets destroyed by an asteroid or something? Then where will we be reborn to improve our karma? Vijay Bhai?
well, you know,
What will happen if the Earth is destroyed?
look, the universal consciousness will still remain. I mean, we are but a vessel, right? The body we have is a vessel to progress spiritually. It could be any vessel. It doesn't have to be a human body vessel. I think that's something we forget, that why does God look like us with arms? Why? Because it's us imposing on him. Yeah. We are made of carbon and, you know, we are but a vessel to use to progress spiritually. So it doesn't matter how the universe evolves in the future, how it's destroyed. I know, you know, so we look at very, very small scale things. Well, the universe scale, there's gigantic, you know, destruction and creation on a grand, which is beyond unimaginable, you know, scale. Yet the Atma in us is even far supreme to that. So the question is, we will live, the Atman will live in anywhere in space or any other kind of vessel or tool to progress spiritually. So this one, this might be just a destruction tomorrow. It's just a glimpse in the in time, you know, in geological time. It's nothing to worry about. We just move on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit scary to think of apocalyptic things like that. But hopefully, you know, we'll all get enlightened then. Hopefully we won't have to keep coming back and being reborn and going through nappies and school and all of that. I love it every time. So hopefully that'll just be the end of that, and we can just be God, essentially, and not have to go through this whole journey over and over again.
Fabulous. So now we are at almost an hour into the broadcast today. And I have one final question that I've got from Simran Foods over on YouTube. And the question is, does Hinduism believe in righteous war or self-defense? He's talking about, you know, the belief of the principle of ahimsa and non-violence, etc. And I know Jay Bhai used to be very, very vocal about this and saying that don't let anybody trample you over when it comes to your dharma or defending Hinduism. Stand up for yourself, and the best way to stand up is to be armed with knowledge so that you can defend yourself in the best manner possible. But I'm going to hand over to the team to answer this last question, and then we can wrap up.
Jay Bhai?
Yeah, so I think ahimsa has to be taken in context. As Jay Bhai quite said, don't let people walk over you. Then I think you're not the Atman anymore, because as an Atman, you too are divine. And at some point, if you have to fight for dharma or righteousness, then you should do it. You just can't let people walk over it. That's not how the real world works. So I think Ahimsa is very important, but only to an extent. Then you have to make sure that you stand up for yourself. And knowledge and strength, everything is important in that sense. Sita?
Yeah, actually, it reminds me of a wonderful story by Sri Ramakrishna about, I don't know if I can quickly do the story. So once upon a time, there was a very poisonous snake that was living on the outskirts of a village, and everyone in the village was very scared of that snake. And, because it would just bite and, give poison to the people in the community. And one day there was a wise man passing by, and they told him, don't walk near that tree. There's a very poisonous snake there. And the wise man said, don't worry, let me go there and talk to the snake, because it's just a colourful story. You have to take it with a pinch of salt. So the wise man goes to the snake and says, why are you biting and hurting all these people? You should, everyone is special, everyone is divine. You should practice ahimsa, non-violence. And the snake said, okay. And then the wise man went away, and people of the village started to notice that the snake was no longer biting people anymore. And then they started to realize that actually we might be able to go and sort of hurt the snake. So some people of the village went and started hurting the snake and hitting the snake and doing all sorts of horrible things. But the snake remembered, everyone is divine. I can't hurt anybody. So I just have to sit here and, get hurt. And then after some time, the wise man came again, and he saw the state of the snake, and he said, oh my goodness, snake, what has happened to you? Why are you bruised and completely weak? What's happened to you? And the snake said, you told me ahimsa, so I was no longer hurting or biting anybody, and look what's happened to me as a result. The wise man said, yes, everyone is special, everyone is divine, but so are you. You were being hurt, so you had the duty to then not hurt anybody in return, but at least hiss, so that those people stay away from you. They know that you are essentially divine as well. So don't go out and hurt anybody. Just make a show, make a stand that you are also divine as well.
That is a really good analogy for where we are in today's world. And the answer for so many of the questions today, and the topic of the day today, weakness of modern Hinduism. And so the antidote is basically arm yourself with the knowledge and hiss, as Sita says. So with that, I'd like to wrap up for today. And as always, I've got two quotes today. And these are the quotes I have for you to celebrate the occasion of Guru Purnima. So this is something taken from the complete works of, you can see the attribute at the bottom there. And the guru is the means of realization. There is no knowledge without a teacher. That's one of the quotes. Here is another one, which is that the guru passes the thought power, the mantra that he has received from those before him to the shishya, and nothing can be done without a guru. So with that in mind, I'd like to wish you all a very happy week ahead. And we will see you next week on Saturday at 2 o'clock UK time as usual. Bye-bye for now. I'll just bring my team on. And there we are. Bye-bye, everyone. We'll see you next week at 2 o'clock UK time on Saturday.